Welcome to week 5 of Kids Online. We're still in Christ and we still have our mystery box. Now, I wonder what we're going to be pulling out of our mystery box today. Got a couple of balloons here, but I don't think you can see. I'll turn them around. There's hearts on them. Maybe we're talking about Valentine's Day? That doesn't sound quite right. Maybe it's love. Maybe the hearts are representing love. I think that's what it is, but let's pay attention to the talk today and we'll see what balloons with hearts have to do with being in Christ.
We are finishing our In Christ series in Ephesians this week. And so I'm going to do a bit of a recap and we're going to go through everything that we have been learning this term. And we're going to do that because in chapter 3, Paul actually summarizes everything that he said earlier in the letter and he puts it all together in this beautiful passage. And so I'm going to read it with you today. For this reason, I kneel before the Father from whom every family in heaven and on earth derives its name. I pray that out of his glorious riches he may strengthen you with power through his Spirit in your inner being, so that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith. And I pray that you, being rooted and established in love, may have power together with all the Lord's holy people to grasp how long and high and deep is the love of Christ, and to know this love that surpasses knowledge, that you may be filled to the measure of the fullness of God. So we're going to break it down. Now, in the first week, we were learning about family. Paul is praying for God's people and God's family, saying that we are in God's family. And so here we have Paul talking about how all families in heaven and on earth derive its name from God. So that was the first week. Second week, I got Rob to touch a fish for me. And we were thinking about power, that we can be strengthened by God's Spirit. In Christ we're in power, or the power is in us as God's Spirit works in us, and it's the promise of forever. So where can we see that? In our passage, we have us being strengthened with power through his Spirit. And then in week 3, we were talking about grace, how it's God's good given free. And Paul was talking about a spirit that's dwelling in our hearts and it's going to change us. Just like that jelly goes from like just powder into this, wobbly, cool, delicious thing to eat. We're changed totally because of God's grace. So again, we go back to this one passage and we can see that dwelling in our hearts through faith, we have God's grace changing our hearts. And then we had community. It was the week where we had the jacket, talking about being in a team, and I spoke to you about how all people can be in God's family, and we're in the community because it's Jesus who brings us together. And so here we have all of the Lord's holy people together, all of us who believe Jesus can be together, God's holy people in his family. That's a big recap. And so for us, this week, we are remembering that all of these things only come because we are in Christ. So why does Paul focus on this in Christ as kind of being the end point of all of this? He wants for us to remember that we are rooted and established in love, so we can know how wide and long and high and deep is the love of Christ, and to know this love. Can you do it with me? That we are rooted and established to know how wide and long and high and deep is the love of Christ, and to know this love. And Paul in this passage, he talks about how he has the special job of sharing this love. His job was being, it says, a servant to Jesus. His job was taking the good news of Jesus, even though it was a bit of a mystery, to make it clear to people that we now know God's plan. We now know that God's plan is in Jesus. And no matter what that might look like, I mean, this guy's writing from jail, we are to share this love with others. So if you believe and trust in Jesus, then you are in Christ. You have God's power. You have his grace changing you. You are in his family and you are part of a community. And so for you, the love that changes you, we are to share with others. So we need to be making sure that we're thinking about inviting others, that we are praying for people to come to know Christ too, to love others with the news of Jesus. And so as we start a new year at school, we're about to go into term 1, we are praying that you will be people that will be going into the community, into the places that you know, and you'll be sharing the love of Christ. And so we're going to be praying for that a little bit later today.
Welcome to Craft for this week. This week's really exciting. We're going to be making a prayer jar. Now, it would be great to have a think about what's happening in this coming year. Are you starting a new grade at school? Are you joining a new sports team? Is something different happening for you and your family? Is there a change? Think about the places that you'll be going to, the people you'll be meeting and seeing each week. And we want to be spending some time with our family praying for that. Pray for the friends you'll meet at school. Pray for the friends you'll see at soccer, your family who live elsewhere, because we want to be sharing the gospel and sharing the good news about God and God's love with the people that we meet. This week we heard we are in Christ, and that means that we have his love in us and we're included to share that love with other people. So to make this prayer jar, the first thing you're going to need to find is a jar. You might have one you can pull the label off that you've used for cooking or for something like that. And once you've got the label off, which I have almost done, you are going to have a look around your house for things you can use to decorate your jar. I have some ribbon here, a little bit of fabric. Maybe you can find some paper or textures. If you'd like to be adventurous and you have paint around, you could use that as well. And I have some PVA glue to help me stick it all together. So I really like this Hessian fabric. I'm going to put some glue around the middle of my jar to stick this on. Okay. And we'll trim that on the end. Give it some extra glue to stick. Okay. There we go. And I'll add some ribbon around. I love the colour purple. So let's add some purple ribbon on top. Okay, let's stick this ribbon on the glue all the way around till we get to the end. Oh, it's a little bit tricky to cut. Okay. And I'm going to add some blue ribbon as well. Now, the school that I'm teaching at next year, blue is one of their school colours. Lots of their buildings are blue. There's lots of blue things at that school, so I'm going to add blue, and that's a good reminder as well of one of the new places that I will be this year that I can be praying about. Maybe you have sports team colours you'd like to add, or somewhere that your parents work that you could add something like that to decorate your jar. So let's put my blue ribbon around. And lastly, because this is a prayer jar, I have made some little bits of bunting by cutting out triangles and sticking them onto this piece of thread. And I'm going to write the word pray on there. Let's see, P-R-A-Y. And I might tie that around the top. I've got a little bit of yellow ribbon to add to that. Ooh. Need the letter P as well. Okay, we've got a lovely bow on the back. Can trim that. Okay, once your prayer jar is decorated and you've added all you want to, find some paper, gather your family around and spend some time praying for those places that you'll be, those places where you can share God's amazing love with the people that you meet. You might write a prayer for school, because that's an important place where you'll be this year. Maybe you will write a prayer for dancing or sport or something that you do during the week. Your parents might have places that they'll be at, maybe at work, or people they know. It might be a lovely idea to pray for maybe your moving house, maybe your new neighbours next door that you'll see lots during the day. Keep this prayer jar somewhere special, and it will be great to, later in the year, go back and have a look at those prayers that you wrote today and see the amazing work that God has done throughout the year and how He's been helping you to share His amazing love with the people around you. I hope you have a lot of fun with this craft and you're really encouraged by spending time praying for those people.
Our verse of the week today is from Ephesians chapter 3, verses 17 to 18, and it is an amazing verse. So follow along the actions as I say it. And I pray that you, being rooted and established in love, may have power together with all the Lord's holy people to grasp how wide and long and high and deep is the love of Christ. What a brilliant verse from Ephesians chapter 3, verse 17 to 18. Let's do it one more time. And I pray that you, being rooted and established in love, may have power together with all the Lord's holy people to grasp how wide and long and high and deep is the love of Christ.
Wow, thanks Naomi. That was a really interesting talk. It explained that we are loved by God and we're meant to share that love with others. I hope you can go away this week and think about how you can love others. Now, it's not really too hard. You can just think about being a little bit nicer. Think about when you can show God's love, be it in the playground, be it at home to your family, be it wherever you are. See something and do something nice and share God's love with others. Have a great week.
Are you ready to sing praises to our great God? It's time to get off your feet, get your voices ready, come and dance with us. Let's go.